Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Wrap. I am your host, Frank Walsh, along with my friend and co-host, Michael Wigdor.
Hey, Frank.
And ladies and gentlemen, Mike and I usually fly solo, but today I think we're going to break the rule a little bit. You know that rule, like you go to a wedding, there's not supposed to be a woman who looks better than the bride? Well, we're going to break the rule today because we are going to have a guest on this show who are better than the co-hosts. So we have a young man here who is relatively new to Smack. He came in, looked around, has a very impressive resume behind him. He's worked on Comcast Sports, he's worked in the newspaper business, he's been on the radio. This guy has been around and he knows his sport. So it gives me and gives my great pleasure to introduce our guest today, Mr. Leverett Ball. How are you, Leverett?
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, hi, Leverett.
Thank you for that intro also.
I tell you think you can live up to that? I tell you.
We'll see.
You know?
The pressure's on, Leverett.
So why don't you look into that camera and tell the folks at home a little bit about Leverett Ball.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm very excited to be here. This is my first time coming on the station. I have previous experience at Comcast Sportsnet and also Boston Herald Radio. I'm also currently doing some promotional work with the WEEI Sports Radio Network. So I'm very excited to be here, and yeah, it's a pretty cool opportunity to be on an award-winning show like this one.
Well, thank you very much.
That's good. Yeah.
So, Mikey, what are we going to talk with this guy about today? You know, where do you want to put him to the test?
I have to talk. Well, we have to start with last night because even though there's some great Olympics stuff happening right now, the Olympics, the U.S. team is winning gold, like you read about. You know, they're just on fire. I mean, I really would like to talk about that, but the thing is, the Red Sox are driving me crazy because last night I saw there was a wonderful game at Fenway Park, huge crowd, Yankees, Red Sox-Yankee rivalry, which is always fantastic anyway. Even if the Yankees stink, we still want to beat them and, into the ground. And Rick Porcello had a beautiful game going, 5-2, and they bring in the closer to end the game. They bring in Kimbrel, and once again, Kimbrel, he imploded. He gives up like 4 walks. The Yankees have actually the winning run up, and Kimbrel is taken out. Matt Barnes comes in and closes it with the bases loaded, but it shouldn't have to be that way. I mean, what's the story with these guys?
Well, Kimbrel, he's been inconsistent all season, and the thing that I don't understand about him is he's either untouchable or he gets rocked. You don't really get anything in the middle. It's all or nothing with him. And so, I mean, obviously he's a hard-throwing guy. He's up there in the high 90s. Right. He can touch triple digits, and there are times when he just blows guys away. But when he doesn't have it, it's a mess. Sometimes he can't even complete an inning. And so, yeah, and it's not as common with a hard-throwing closer to see inconsistency like this. If it were a starting pitcher, that's expected. But for a closer, I just don't get it, and I don't know if it's a mental issue or exactly what's going on.
I don't know either. It's crazy because closers usually close. That's what they are. If they're there, they close the game, and they don't have problems. And he just can't seem to get it together. He just can't seem to get it. All he had to do was there were 2 outs, and he just had a strikeout. I forget who it was. It was like only a man on first at the time, and he walked 2 more guys. And it's embarrassing to have to hike the closer out to bring in somebody else.
Yeah. It shouldn't have to be that way.
Especially against the Yankees.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were a starting pitcher who threw a knuckleball, you'd expect some inconsistency.
Right.
For a closer who throws 98 and just goes at people and gasses it up, it's just not common. And I don't really know what's going on.
It's not a good sign, though. Yeah. It's just not a good sign.
Well, first of all, I have to say, Mikey, the good thing about driving you crazy is that it doesn't take a lot of gas. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think you might want to sit back and relax a little bit so I could see my my handsome co-host here.
Frank?
No, I mean, I tend to agree with you in that. I think a lot of these guys have a hard time adjusting when they come to new teams. I mean, it's pretty typical and. We obviously know that coming to Boston, they're under the microscope. Every move they make, everything that they do, they're under pressure.
That's true.
And I think that it might take 3/4 of a season, and who knows that they, because they obviously have the talent. It's not a lack of talent on these guys.
No.
It's like David Price.
Price
came in here, expected to be the ace, and look what's happened to him. Yeah, they've got all the
mystery.
tools, and I think a lot of this stuff. I think it might be a location problem. Because they've got the gas, they've got the heat, they've got the capability to blow people away.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is just not going up there with that confidence that they are going to get these people out and they're just going to go up there and throw, versus having that little bit of tentativeness going into the game where it's just like, well, I hope I'm good tonight. Or, boy, I'm in a key spot. I can't let, you know what I mean? You can pitch offensively and you can pitch defensively. And I think you get into that little spiral there, like David Price and some of the other people who struggle. It snowballs. And I think that's where Farrell and the management has to come in. We can maybe chat about that a little bit. Is how are these guys managed?
That's what I didn't understand last night, because he's walking people. He's wild. You could see he's wild. And Farrell's watching from the dugout, and he's like, you can see he's pissed and everything. And I don't know if the pitching coach went out to the bullpen or something, but nobody came out to talk to Kimbrel.
Plus, they know that Kimbrel has a knee problem as well. He's fessed up that his knee is bothering him.
But if he's not 100%, he shouldn't be out there.
Yeah, after the second, they should have started warming him up right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you guys mentioned also, the way Farrell's handled those guys has been questionable, and it's surprising because Farrell actually has worked as a pitching coach.
Yep. That's one of the reasons why they hired him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's one thing
buttholes.
if you have a manager who is a career position player in his playing days, and then maybe was a hitting coach or a base coach, and doesn't really know how to work with pitchers, doesn't really know what goes through their head on a day-to-day basis. But Farrell has that experience, and so for him to be mishandling the pitching staff makes no sense, and it's especially perplexing just the way the pitching staff has performed all year. And I mean, who would have thought that Rick Porcello, going into the season, that Rick Porcello would be having a better season than David Price?
That's right.
You have that.
Or
you have
David
that
Wright.
dynamic. Yeah. I mean, you have that. Yeah, Stephen Wright. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Stephen Wright.
David Wright, the third baseman for the Mets. He's a stud. We can talk about him also, but
I told you we have the guest who knows more than the hosts.
but I mean, it's been perplexing, and then Craig Kimbrel's been inconsistent. Then you've got Clay Buchholz. I don't even know what to say about him.
I'm surprised he's on the team anymore.
He's got a sweet haircut, but the pitching has not been there this season.
No, but going back to David Price, I really think part of it is that they just gave him so much money, and I think some of the players lose motivation. Because he's only pitching every fifth day. Why can't you wrap your head around that you're going to be out there and you have to give a great performance? Like the great aces of the past, Schilling, Pedro.
Yeah.
These guys, they went out there and they pitched and they won, and that's what they're being paid for. He's not living up to what he's paid for, and people have said, and I agree with it, if he doesn't straighten this out, I don't see how the Red Sox are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, well, you mentioned maybe David Price losing some motivation with all the millions the Red Sox have given him. I mean, if you could just pitch a bad game, hop in your Bugatti, and drive back to your mansion, would you be particularly upset about it? I don't know.
Yeah, but he's here to pitch. Well, the thing is, how Fenway is, and fans of baseball, we live and die with the Red Sox. People live and die with our sports teams.
Yeah.
And he's not acting as if it's as important to him as it is to us, fans.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to Schilling. I mean, Schilling's on EEI. I don't know if you've heard Schilling on when you were on there. And you hear Pedro in the past, or you hear some of these aces.
Right.
These guys ate, drank, and slept their next start.
That's right.
They ate, drank, and slept their next start.
That's right.
They would prepare, they would study the pitches, they would get them motivated, and they would go into that game as focused as you could possibly be.
That's right.
Now, did they win all the time? Not necessarily, but they went in there with that,
mindset
that they are going to beat these guys, especially Pedro. I mean, Pedro was guy. He didn't like you hit throw at your chin.
That's right.
He'd start the game off throwing it at your head and say, "This is my game."
He'd call it out too. He'd point to his head. I don't know if you remember the playoff series against the Yankees.
That's right.
Points at the guy, points to his head.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I mean, and the thing you mentioned also, the preparation that those pitchers had, back in the day, they're throwing to Jason Varitek, who was known as one of the most prepared catchers in the game. He studied hitters. He worked so well with pitchers. And Varitek was never...
something that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
well, in Varitek, he was never an unbelievable hitter. He never had a great arm and threw guys out, but he just was so smart behind the plate, calling pitches no one would ever shake him off. This year... they've had how many different catchers back there? They've had Sandy Leone, Christian Vasquez, Ryan Hannigan, Blake Swihart, who then they tried to put in the outfield.
And you know what's missing from that? Except for Hannigan, they don't really have an experienced catcher back there.
Yeah.
That might have a tremendous effect on it.
Yeah, but it's funny, I was working with the WEI Sports Radio Network. Yesterday, we did an event, a promotional event with T-Mobile. Yep. And actually, Sandy Leone came to the event. He was our guest that day. Oh. I had a chance to meet him, and he's been hitting well this season. But we'll see if he can get on the same page with the pitching staff because they need someone. They need a catcher to step up. So I'm going to be a leader. Make it clear to the pitching staff this is what we need to do. I mean, earlier in the season, Dustin Pedroia, the Red Sox second baseman, was giving David Price advice on his pitching mechanics.
We mentioned that on our show.
Yeah, Dustin Pedroia should not be. No. You see him giving David Price advice on his mechanics. You remember that game when he was yelling at Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound? Dustin Pedroia needs to play second base and hit. He's not the pitching coach.
No.
And I think it puts things in perspective on where things are if Dustin Pedroia is now the substitute pitching coach.
But going back to Porcello, thank God for him. He's 15-2 now.
That's ridiculous.
It's insane.
That's ridiculous.
And he hasn't lost a game at Fenway Park. It's like 11-0.
And he has, I think, that attitude that we're talking about, especially last night.
Exactly.
With the bench at the end of the game. Plus, he's growing some chutzpah there.
Yeah.
That he's not afraid to challenge these guys.
He's
going out there.
8 strong innings.
Yeah,
he did.
I like his mentality and his attitude this season because I think last year he's trying too hard to impress people, please everyone.
Well, they sent him down to Pawtucket there for a while, and then he came back and pitched a series of good games and then faltered a little bit.
But this season, he's just doing things his way. He has a little bit more of a swagger. You see him yelling at John Farrell about how he doesn't want to come out of the game. He looked like he was about to cry. He looked like he was about to tear up when he was on the mound last year. Now he's yelling at his manager. He's got a swagger. I like that.
And he's making a lot of money too, so it's not like money is not the only thing that's motivating him.
Right.
I think he was really embarrassed last year. He came back here determined to have a good season.
Yeah, I agree.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there's a quantum difference between the two. But I remember when I was playing ball, I played fast pitch softball, and I was really fast.
Threw gas back in the day.
Huh?
I heard you threw gas back in the day.
I threw gas back in the day.
Unhittable.
Pedro Jr.
But the point is that what a difference it made with the catcher, how important it was to me, because when I first started playing out over several years, I had these two big guys. They both weighed, they were two brothers actually, and they split the duty. Yeah. Each one of them was like 350 and 320. Wow. So they were behind the plate.
Yeah.
And they were so big and so strong that there were times where actually I would throw my fastball, they would catch it with their bare hand. They would just put up the bare hand and catch it. That's how. But when they weren't catching and they put somebody else in, or I played on a different team with a different catcher, it made a huge difference to me. Yeah. Huge difference. Even their location, where they were putting the ball, because they didn't have control of me. A good catcher will control the game. Right. And if I was messing up, they'd come out. If I was throwing a lot of change-ups and stuff, they'd say, "Geez, Frank, what are you doing? You can blow this guy away. Don't throw that change-up stuff. Give him the gas. Blow him away."
Maybe that's the difference. Maybe they're missing a good veteran catcher. But Veritek is there.
Used to do that.
Veritek is there, and supposedly, just like Wakefield is advising Stephen Wright.
Yeah.
Supposedly he's advising the catchers. So you'd think that they'd have some input, something to change to work on.
You have to wonder how Veritek feels privately about the Red Sox catching situation, because he has actually publicly stood up for Blake Swihart. Some people have said Blake Swihart isn't even a catcher. He's a good hitter. He's a good athlete. Maybe you can play him in left field. Some people have said Blake Swihart's future isn't even behind the plate. Veritek has publicly said that he thinks Swihart can be an all-star catcher someday. Wow. So, and you have to wonder, though, how he feels privately with kind of the revolving door they've had at catcher between, like we said, Leone, Swihart, Vasquez, Hannigan. Now they just brought in a new catcher as well in a trade. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Yeah, Holiday or something like that? Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, with this revolving door at catcher, I mean, Veritek has said all the right things publicly, but you have to wonder what's going through his head right now.
That's true, but we should maybe segue into the Patriots. And you were watching Nate Ebner. Who's a two-sport athlete. Yes. And they were wearing rugby shirts the other day, I guess, on the field.
The Patriots have been very supportive of Ebner playing rugby in the
Right.
Olympics. They allowed him to miss some training camp. I don't, Bill Belichick. This is the same coach who benched Jonas Gray after a record-setting game because he was late to a team meeting. So Belichick, the coach whose leg you never try to pull, is allowing Nate Ebner to play rugby in the Olympics and miss training camp, which really shows just how much admiration they have for him pursuing his dream and trying to win an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah, I know. And he must, the thing is, they have to think of him as a huge contributor on the team, because otherwise they wouldn't let him do that.
Right.
They would just say, goodbye.
Well, and Nate Ebner is a special teams standout. Now, most teams overlook the special teams position. They bring in new people to fill that role and help out on the punt and kickoff team every year. But the Patriots, they have guys like Ebner. They have a guy like Matthew Slater, who's a special teamer but also a team captain. Back in the day, they had Larry Izzo, who went to multiple Pro Bowls as a special teamer. So they really value special teams players.
I know. Yeah, no, that's true.
No, I know that we chatted briefly before the show when you were talking about some of the differences between playing football and playing rugby, and some of the faux pas that Ebner has made.
You played rugby, right?
Yes, I played on the rugby team at Curry College. I was the team captain my junior and senior year, and rugby is not what people make it out to be, because people think that rugby is football without pads, and that's not the case. Rugby, you don't wear equipment, but the rules are stricter. So in football, you're wearing a helmet and shoulder pads, but you're allowed to be more reckless. In rugby, they require you to wrap someone up and use technique and tackle someone rather than just throwing a shoulder and launching yourself at someone. In football, you can just go out there and pummel people. Rugby, the rules are stricter. And so Nate Ebner...
You can only go after the guy with the ball?
Right, you can't hit someone without the ball. So actually, Nate Ebner recently, he made a huge hit in the Olympics, and it went viral, and lots of people are now watching Olympic rugby because they're Patriots fans, and they don't actually necessarily have an interest in rugby. They just want to see Ebner play. So I was going through my Facebook news feed last night, and I see all these people sharing this video. They said, look at Nate Ebner breaking this dude in half. This is unbelievable. But the hit he made was actually illegal, because he hit a guy and didn't wrap up when the guy didn't even have the ball. Completely illegal. And in rugby, does
he get a penalty? Does he miss a game or something?
Yeah, well, in rugby, they'll put you in. Well, sometimes they'll call back 10 on a penalty, which means the other teams award the ball. You have to drop back 10 meters and give them space to run their play. Other times, though, if you have an egregious penalty, they'll put you in what's called the sin bin, which is like the penalty box in hockey. So your team will actually have to play down a man.
You have to wear a dunce cap or anything?
No, nothing like that. But
are you for the rest of the game? You have to play down?
Yes, I actually spent some time with sin bin once in my college career.
Sin bin.
Because I knocked a kid's front row teeth out. So you guys might want to just walk off the set now and not associate with me.
We don't do full contact.
But yeah.
Now, I think you might have to qualify that a little bit and say that it wasn't on purpose.
No, it was not on purpose. Right.
So the rugby U.S. team, they won a game and they're still in it, right?
Yeah, and Ebner actually has also scored a try. And
what's a try?
So a try, it's like a touchdown basically, but in rugby, when you score, in football, you can just carry the ball in the end zone, you score. In rugby, you actually have to touch the ball on the ground. So you have to run into the try zone, which is like the end zone, and touch the ball on the ground, or else it doesn't count. So if you get into the try zone and then drop the ball, you don't score. So I've only seen this twice in the entire time I've been involved in rugby, but I've seen twice guys actually run the length of the field, get into the try zone, and then somehow drop the ball and not score. I actually
because they have to touch the ball.
You have to touch the ball on the ground. I was playing in a college game, and I forget which school we were playing against, but a kid on the other team ran the ball into the try zone, and rather than try to touch the ball down immediately, he kind of tried to showboat and kind of dance around in the try zone. He didn't see a kid on my team coming. The kid cleaned him out, hit him, knocked the ball loose. The ball went out of bounds, and he didn't get any points. So that's kind of how rugby is a little bit different. In addition to some of the rule changes, you actually have to physically touch the ball on the ground to score.
Now, let's say that if someone gets in there, let's say you're going in there and you're fighting your way in, and you were in the try zone holding the ball. Now, would the other team try to hold you up?
Exactly.
They can hold you up.
They'll do that.
And are they allowed to push you back?
Yeah,
and
guys
get
will do
you
that.
out of the try zone and all that stuff. Like they'll surround you so you can't.
Absolutely, guys will try to hold you up and keep you from touching the ball down. Also, I mean, plays on the goal line, or excuse me, the try line. They call it the goal line in football. The try line in rugby are some of the most physical plays in rugby because, I mean, in the open field, you'll see a lot of passing, a lot of juking. On the try line, it's just shoulder-to-shoulder contact. You know there's going to be a big collision.
Yeah, it looks like there's a big scrum going on, like they're all together and...
Well, the scrum. So the scrum is how they restart play after a penalty. That's you've probably seen that. The scrum, you basically get all your forwards. They call it the pack, and you get them in the scrum, and your scrum half will roll the ball under, and you actually, while you're scrummaging against the other team, you try to hook the ball back with your feet and win the ball that way. And so it's intense. Being in the scrum, especially in a game in which there are a lot of scrums and a lot of penalties called, it really grinds on your body, and it's tough. So it's one of the most taxing parts of the game.
All right, so let's go to the Patriots. So they besides not having Ebner right now, Edelman just came back today. He was injured, but Rob Ninkovich could be out
4 to 6 weeks.
For his tricep.
Yeah,
4 to 6.
He could be out till October, they said.
Well, and the Patriots keep that type of thing on the down low. They don't really let their players talk publicly about injuries.
No, but that was on the news. So.
Right. Well, and the media does everything they can to gather as much information as they can. But Bill Belichick's not a chatty guy. He'll tell you as little as he possibly can.
Frank does a good imitation of Bill Belichick.
What's your Bill Belichick imitation?
Oh, no, I really will. It's
we're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, we're on. I only do what's best for the team.
Whatever's best for the team.
Best for the team.
Your guys decided to wear.
It's more like it's like talking to somebody in the CIA.
Yeah.
I don't care about the CIA.
I would be nervous if I was
Patriots.
a new guy there that was asking a question and it was like, like a stupid question, and he would just like unload on that.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I don't know if you guys remember.
Have you been to press conferences with him?
I've been to some press conferences with a few different New England sports figures. I've never been to a Belichick press conference. I feel as though those would be the most entertaining. I don't know if you remember last year.
They would be, as long as you don't ask a question.
Right, exactly. But if you guys remember last year in the playoffs when Chandler Jones got into trouble, he had an off-the-field incident, and then a reporter asked Bill Belichick, "Are you going to still put Chandler Jones in the starting lineup?"
Yes.
Even though he spent the last night in the police station. And Bill Belichick said, "Well, I could just make a copy of the game plan and give it to you and give it to the coaching staff from Kansas City. That would just make everything simpler."
Yeah,
and,
no.
And he's if you guys probably remember the On to Cincinnati rant. And,
I love that one.
There's actually a comedian, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he actually does an impersonation of Bill Belichick.
Frank
Caliendo. Isn't that who
Frank Caliendo,
does a hilarious impersonation of a Bill Belichick press conference. They asked Frank Caliendo in the press conference while he's impersonating Belichick, they say, your house burned down. Are you going to evaluate your fire captain situation? Because one game when the Patriots played badly, they asked Bill Belichick if he'd bench Tom Brady, and Bill Belichick just scoffed. He said, "Are you going to evaluate your quarterback situation?" Bill Belichick just scoffed. Yeah. And so in this spoof press conference, they say, your house was burned down. Are you going to evaluate your fire captain situation? And Frank Caliendo just goes, it doesn't say anything.
Yeah, as if he's okay.
Yeah.
We're not going to change him, even though my house burned down.
Exactly.
That's a typical thing.
But so before we move on quickly, what do you think of the Garoppolo Brady situation? What's going to happen in those 4 games?
Obviously, Garoppolo is going to play the 4 games. Brady has accepted his suspension.
Yep.
Probably not with much enthusiasm, but he's accepted it.
Yep.
Right.
Garoppolo is going to play. From everything that Bill Belichick said, there's no chance of Garoppolo taking Brady's job this season. However, if he plays well over those 4 games, and let's say Tom Brady comes back after a suspension and plays badly, maybe the chances of Garoppolo taking Tom Brady's job at some point down the road are higher. Also, possibly if the Patriots wanted to trade Jimmy Garoppolo for draft picks or a stud defensive player, those 4 games will be a chance for him to showcase himself.
Exactly. You know what's so scary about it to Tom Brady, though? Because it's almost a situation like, not the same, but he replaced Bledsoe, who was the greatest quarterback in the league at the time. And he never got his job back. So I think that's what's really scaring Brady and Brady, making him work really hard.
Well, and Brady has a chip on his shoulder because, Tom Brady, he's one of the best players of all time, but he wasn't even the starting quarterback at his high school effort. He had to fight to even win the starting quarterback job at his high school.
He wasn't the starting quarterback at Michigan either.
No, and then he went to the University of Michigan, and they had Drew Henson there, if you remember him.
Yep.
Drew Henson briefly played for played in the NFL with, I think, the Cowboys. He also briefly played for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, that's
Drew
right.
Henson, the guy who could play every sport but not master any of them.
Yes.
And he pushed Tom Brady for playing time.
That's right.
And Tom Brady had to fight to even be on the field his senior year. And then he was a 6th-round draft pick. So Tom
Right.
Brady has this chip on his shoulder, and he still approaches each and every practice like he has to
6th-round
fight.
draft
Right.
pick, I know.
He still approaches each and every practice like he has to fight for his job, and he takes everything personally. So the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be taking some of the reps with the starting offense in training camp, and they're going to say, Tom Brady, go off to the side and,
What if
you know,
Jimmy? I mean, I don't want to say this, but what if he goes 4-0? They may have to rethink things about him. I would hate
Yeah.
to see that, though.
Although
I mean,
Tom Brady
is the best.
well, he's still playing at a high level, though. That's the thing.
Right.
With Peyton Manning, for example, last year,
I know.
they had Peyton Manning and Brock Osweiler on the Broncos and said, who should we play? But Peyton Manning was declining.
Yes.
Peyton Manning no longer had a strong arm.
Right.
If you watch that Super Bowl game, he threw, like 10 passes?
horrible.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
defense won that game.
his Super Bowl trophy was basically a participation trophy.
That's right.
And so Peyton Manning, at the end of his career, he was declining. Tom Brady's still playing at a high level.
I know.
So I don't see him losing his job this season, but perhaps if Garoppolo plays well, then it could affect his future with the team.
I wasn't going to let this out of the bag. I hope you don't get upset about this, Mikey. But since you're our guest and we are an award-winning show, we're gonna break a story here.
Okay.
A lot of controversy about Brady and how he's going to practice and all of that stuff and where he's going to be.
What?
Mike and I have been talking to Tom, and he's been needing a place to work out and people to throw to passes. Tom's going to be here at SMAC, and Mike and I are going to be his receivers that we're going to be working out with Brady, and that's going to eliminate all the controversy about playing, maybe at Michigan or playing at BU, BC. So
Tom,
Brady
I
is
haven't
going to
seen
be
you
here
practicing
in
your
studio
receivers.
throwing
If you
to
guys,
us.
if
We're
you
gonna be
guys are
showing
going to
it.
do that,
Yeah.
I think he'll probably ask the Patriots to just cut all the receivers from their roster and add you guys once his suspension's up.
Yeah, we
So-
are
Frank-
trained
Frank-
receivers.
Yeah,
we don't brag about that.
Hey, Danny Amendola, sorry man, but I've replaced you. So.
With Frank Walsh and Mike Wigdor.
Yeah.
I don't know about
Exactly,
that. I think you might be trying out, though.
Yeah.
You have a better shot. Well, before we go, I think we have to say something about the incredible accomplishment of Michael Phelps in the Olympics.
Yes.
Yeah.
21 gold medals. And
He's just a genetic freak. He literally looks like he was genetically engineered in a lab to just be a dominant swimmer.
Yep.
but the head that goes with that, though. I mean,
Yeah.
not only the mind, not
I
only
liked
the body, but
his
the mind.
finger wag at the end of his gold medal winning race.
Yes.
Gave one of the. I like that because swimming isn't as much of a showboat sport.
Yes.
In football, you see guys doing touchdown dances. You see
Right.
NBA players who can do cool dunks. Swimming is not really a showboat sport, and I think Michael Phelps is not only a great swimmer, but he's changing the sport and making it flashier and more popular. And
He is.
he's got that swagger. You've seen him. He did the finger wag. You've seen him win races and splash the water and go crazy. I like seeing that.
Okay.
Well, we have
we're
just about
out of
enough time
I
to
know.
thank our sponsor, M&G
right.
Pizza, and also
That's
thank
right.
you
That's
for
right.
Hey,
coming
thank
on.
you for having
That's
me,
right.
guys.
It's been a
Coming
pleasure.
on.
Maybe
Great.
our sponsor can give me some deal with some nice fresh pizza.
Absolutely.
Maybe. All
So
right,
for Roxanne Morse in the
that's
booth,
right. Mike Wigdor,
Frank Walsh,
And
we
Leverett
will-
Ball, yeah, thank you for
we
having
will
me.
see you
down the road.
down the road.